morning and welcome to ELOsoFumarTakes. This is our 293rd take, live from the Alec Bradley Lone Star Studio of Vasel, Texas. I'm your host, Barry Duplessis, as always, and I'm so proud, so pleased, and so privileged to be with you all tonight. This is going to be a fantastic show. We've had a lot of first-time guests the last couple of weeks, and we have another one tonight. This one I'm so excited to have. It's been a long time coming, and we're going to introduce this distinguished gentleman in just a few minutes. But before we get to formal introductions, we have to thank the people that make this show possible. And that, of course, is our sponsors. And tonight's show is sponsored by Drew Estate. Drew Estate has announced the return of Liga Privada Unico Year of the Rat spring release. They're delighted to announce the return of this much-anticipated Liga Privada Unico series, Year of the Rat, available exclusively at Drew Diplomat retailers nationwide. Kicking off its annual spring appearance with a fresh batch available at the beginning of last month, the Year of the Rat is celebrated for its rich tradition and deep connection to the story of the Florida Panthers' 1996 Stanley Cup Finals run. The Year of the Rat cigar commemorates the legendary rat trick performed by Scott Mellenby, which became a symbol of good fortune and tenacity both on and off the ice, capturing the spirit of one of hockey's most memorable tales. Jonathan Drew, founder and president of Drew Estate, shares his thoughts. The premium cigar industry has a culture of storytelling and the brand and personal level, but it should never override the fundamentals of quality, consistency, and flavor profile. The Year of the Rat was blended in Nicaragua and shortly after the release of the infamous Dirty Rat. This year's Year of the Rat features a luxurious dark Connecticut broadleaf wrapper, a flavorful Brazilian binder, and a robust blend of Nicaraguan and Honduran fillers. The cigars are meticulously crafted in a 5.5 by 56 Corona Gorda size and are known for their distinct fantail head, making each smoke a unique experience. So check out your Drew Diplomat retailer today for this upcoming release of the Year of the Rat from Drew Estate. And welcome, everybody. This is our 293rd take. If you are listening to us on Facebook, you can tune to us every week on Facebook Live. But if you're catching us later, whether it happens to be on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, Podbean, or wherever you listen to podcasts, tonight's audio broadcast is sponsored by Gran Habano Cigars. Gran Habano Cigars is all about honesty, compassion, and great cigars. Be sure to download, subscribe, and review today. Thanks to our good friends at Gran Habano Cigars for sponsoring tonight's audio broadcast. So without further ado, let's get to tonight's introductions. Tonight's guest is sponsored by United Cigars. Smoke one today and start living United. Mr. Jason Wood of Miami Cigar Company. Jason, how are you doing tonight, my friend?
Pretty good, my brother. How you doing tonight?
Oh, I am doing stupendous, man. It's been one of those days. But we're ending it on a solid and a great note with our conversation tonight. I'm so excited. I'm excited for you to be here tonight.
Absolutely. It'll be a good one. Guaranteed.
Absolutely. So I have to mention though, it is my father's birthday. He's turning 80 years young. So your own father-in-law turned 80 last year, so they're a similar generation.
Yep.
And I mean, what a time to be alive and be 80 years old, man. I mean, it's crazy what they've seen in their lifetime, what they've accomplished.
Oh my God, out of control.
Unbelievable.
Definitely.
What was your? The party was insane and everything, but I know you guys kind of made it like this year-long thing, and why not? I mean, what he's accomplished and what you guys have accomplished as a family together and everything. What was like? What was some of your favorite things, like looking back at the time that you've known him and everything? Like, what was your favorite part of celebrating 80 years with him?
I mean, I think we did a couple of different large-scale events for him, just for different parts of his life, things that he liked. But I think the most enjoyable one was one that we did in Miami. We did a 80-man domino tournament, so double elimination tournament.
Oh wow!
Just bringing all different people, like all different friends, families throughout his time, whether it was in liquor business from before, or cigar business, family, friends, domino players, getting everybody in together, and we split it up. It was 40 friends and family, and then 40 domino players from the city of Miami. So the best 40 that he plays with, whether it be in stores or in different domino parks. So we had 40 professional players and 40 not so professional players. And the funniest part was seeing those two dynamics collide, because it was hilarious. You would see like our friends and family playing, and they're just kind of casually just talking while you're playing, and then the professional's like, "Oh, but you can't talk like that. Like you're not allowed to say those things." And I was like, "Guys, relax. You're gonna beat these guys pretty easily. Like, don't worry about it." But then in a couple of instances, seeing our crew beat them, they weren't very happy.
Oh man, that's funny. Yeah.
But it was a really cool event. Yeah, we did it on a Saturday during the day, and it went into the night, and it was fun just to see everybody together, see Nestor get to do what he loves best, is smoking cigars, having some drinks, playing dominoes, and just having a good time conversing with friends and family. So that was my favorite one, but they were all really enjoyable, and it's everybody's always like, why so many events? I'm like, man, for Nestor Miranda, every day is his birthday. Like you always got to make sure that he's always celebrating.
I I think it I mean, for you, probably growing up there in Miami and everything, it was part of your, part of, I guess, normal sights for you all the time. But I never realized how big, and this is I'm gonna show my ignorance here. I didn't realize until, like, 10 years ago, just like how big Domino's was in the cigar community. Like,
Yeah,
I was that ignorant, I guess. But it's because I mean, I love smoking cigars when I play cards. I love when I play chess.
right.
I associate with board games too. I just, I didn't grow up playing dominoes really,
Yeah,
or anything like that. But I know it's just a huge part of Miami culture and
yeah,
Cuban culture and stuff. So
it's fun when it doesn't get too serious. I think that's like anything, like any competition, as long as like what you're in it for fun, or you're in it to compete. And
oh,
then the
absolutely.
problem collides when there's people that are doing both. One wants it for fun and one's doing it to compete. Um, but yeah, I mean, dominoes can get as serious as you want it to get, especially
Mm.
in Miami. It gets pretty intense. It gets pretty competitive. But at the same time, too, you can play amongst friends and just have a good time. Talk some good shit back and forth, but have a good time doing it and not be so like intense about it. So you just gotta make sure you play with the right people.
Awesome. Well, as Nestor's always been, and you've, as well, just been incredibly generous. I was afforded a gift, in preparation for tonight's show. I've got a few cigars here, a beautiful ashtray, and a drink that, if you'll permit me, I'd love to share with you tonight. But as is customary on my show, I have three cigars here, and I would like for you to pick what I'm going to be smoking tonight with you. So,
Okay.
um,
Awesome.
I've got the Nestor Miranda, special selection in the Toro size.
Okay.
I also have the Nestor Miranda, special selection Connecticut in the Toro size.
Right.
And don't let what I'm about to say sway your decision. This is your decision, and I will smoke whatever you tell me to. But I
Okay.
this is one of my favorites, the resurrected Don Lino Africa, that you guys have put together in partnership with your friends at AJ Fernandez. So, um,
Beautiful.
what cigar am I going to be smoking tonight with you, Jason?
Let's do in honor of Nestor and his birthday. Let's because every day is his birthday. Let's do the Habano.
Alrighty, sounds great.
Yeah.
Man, I loved that this came back. This was one of my favorite cigars when I first got into the business, working retail. Um, Particularly the limited edition that you all did in 2012, the Dano 2012.
Mhm.
Oh my God, that was one of the most unbelievable cigars, uh, that I can remember smoking. I was fantastic. I loved it.
Yeah, the
Absolutely.
Dano did very well in its time. As far as limited editions go, that one was a good one. I believe that was a San Andres wrapper on the 2012. It
Mhm.
was
Yeah,
beautiful.
beautiful, and it aged so well too. Because I mean, I had a box of those things, and they're all gone now, unfortunately. But God bless, they were just they aged really well. They smoked incredible, and they were just an amazing offering. So, um,
Yeah, that's
well,
when the boxes used to come with the loose tobacco around,
uh-huh,
which was
yeah,
like one of Nestor's staple things that he loved. But then when we would travel around to all the stores and wherever, you could always find where the Nestor Miranda cigars were because the floor was full of tobacco. And the retailers hated it. They were like, these boxes make a mess. I was like, yeah, we totally get it. So we eventually had to take that out just because I get that complaint, but it did look beautiful.
God, it
Nestor was
did.
all about coming from the liquor business. He was all about that presentation at the point of sale. And it did give it. I don't know if it was the first box to be packaged like that, but it definitely was one of the first ones to have it. But we eventually had to remove it, not
Not to his
to his
liking.
liking, right? But we
Yeah.
had to do it.
Yeah, Glenn Case of Christoph Cigars also
Yeah,
had that as well. And he abandoned that this year. So like, yeah, it was. I think it's someone else will probably do it down the road. You never say never, never say
right,
always. But it was when you guys stopped doing it, and then now with Christoph, it's going to be a sad. I really liked it. You're
yeah.
right. I worked in retail. It wasn't the cleanest thing sometimes, but you know what? It looked freaking beautiful. It did. It was
Yeah,
fantastic.
it looked cool, but it was just we'd walk into stores and when I would see the floor, I'm like, oh, we're gonna get a complaint for sure. They'd be like, you saw the floor? I'm like, yep, yeah, I did. They're like, we need to do something about that. I was like, we got it.
As I was kind of reflecting on tonight's show, Jason, there's another limited cigar that you guys did that crossed my mind. I couldn't, and I had thought of, I don't know why. I was just thinking about all the Miami cigars I had smoked over the years, like special ones, different ones,
Hmm.
and I remembered the Art Deco. And
Yeah,
I thought I had a couple of left because I have like all my cigars listed and stuff, and I think I misplaced the humidor that it was in, or if I had to mischaracterize it. So I was gonna pull that out. I thought I had two of those left, and I was been like that would have been awesome to bust out. Um, but man, that was a fun cigar too. So
yeah.
it's a good stuff.
Ecuadorian Habano wrapper, then wrapped in Nicaraguan filler and binder, and it that was our first out of the box packaging experiment. That we went with the diner tin feel on the
Hmm.
box. And people converted that into calling it the lunchbox. And I was like, this is not a lunchbox. This is a diner feel.
Yes,
Like, get into that mindset, right? Don't get
yes,
into the lunchbox. They're like,
yeah.
oh, well, yeah, this and the other. I'm like, all right, well, it's the lunchbox then. Fine.
Yeah, we don't. Yes, nothing lunchtime, nothing kids.
Right,
Yes, yes,
right,
diner,
exactly.
diner. Yeah, exactly. Let's
Exactly.
keep it.
Diner, guys. Come on. Focus. Focus. But yeah, it was another fun experiment and fun project that we did under Nestor's brands.
Awesome. Well, if you permit me, you were kind enough to also provide me with a wonderful sampling of the Macallan 12 double cask. And if it's all right with you, I'm going to enjoy that while I smoke the cigar that you chose tonight. If that's okay.
Ab- Absolutely. That's Nestor's baby.
All right. Well, let's go ahead as I'm doing this. Let's go ahead and get into tonight's major point, which is always brought to you by Gran Habano Cigars. From the fertile lands of Honduras, George Rico and his family have put together the very best vintages for you. Yes, you, that's the cigar smoker. From value-based hits like the Corojo number 5 to the award-winning 20th anniversary to special projects like Zulu Zulu, Gran Habano is about cultivating the best and making pinnacle cigars for the market. Culture, tradition, quality, premium handcrafted. That's it. Gran Habano Cigars. So, Jason, as we kind of, there were a few things. I mean, we've only, and again, this is the great thing about having someone that I haven't had on before. The bad thing is, there's so many things I want to talk to you about, and
Right.
we will get to quite a bit tonight before we have to part. But I do want to kind of start from the beginning, and we kind of talked about this a little bit offline. You're a Florida State alum, which
Sure.
when I was a kid, before I, decided that I wanted to, before I decided I went to TCU. When I was a kid, I wanted to go to Florida State. I was a huge Florida State fan. I loved them. Thought Bobby Bowden was so cool. Thought Warwick Dutton was the
Right.
man. So
It was.
um, you know, and then I just became uncool and I stayed in Texas and went to school. So, but but what I mean is that where you first like growing up? I knew you grew up in Miami. What was
Yeah.
your first experience with cigars? Did you start doing that more in college? Like when did it all kind of come together for you?
Right. So the Seminole thing came. My father graduated from Florida State. So from a young age, we would go up to Tallahassee for a game or two every year. So that was instilled in me from the beginning. So that was kind of like a done deal just at birth. I already had the garden and gold in my blood, so that was happening.
Nice.
So that's how I ended up in Tallahassee. And then the cigars started when I met Nestor. So started dating his daughter, and then met him soon thereafter. And he was obviously a big cigar guy already at that time. So we're talking about say 20 years ago, and then that's when he started introducing me to cigars. You smoke cigars? I'd never smoked a cigar before. I was like, all right, so I smoked one with him, but really didn't think much about it or anything. I'm like, this guy wants me to kind of bond with him, so I'll smoke a cigar with him. Fast forward a couple of years, so 2 years after, he's like, what do you think about coming to work for the company? We went back and forth for a while, and then to the point where he's like, look, we need somebody from the family in there, so I need you to get in there. I was like, all right, let's do it. And so the funny thing about my first cigar with Miami Cigar was actually by myself in the office. So at the time, we distributed 601, which
Hmm.
was a cigar by Eddie Ortega and Eric Espinosa.
Yeah.
But they were under the Miami Cigar umbrella. We were distributing for them. And at the
Oh.
time, 601 had the four different colors. So they had the red, green, blue, and black. And so anyway, they were there. It was just a cigar. It was always there. And I was just kind of drawn to like the band, I guess. It just had a different feel to it compared to some of our other stuff.
Hmm.
So it was the first day that I actually closed the office. So everybody left, and I'm like the newer guy. So I'm trying to get there early, leave late. I'm like, you know what, today I'm going to stay behind because when everybody leaves, I'm going to cut this cigar. Like I figured, I saw how everybody cuts the cigar. I'm going to cut this cigar and I'm going to smoke the cigar. And I'm going to kind of teach myself how to do this so that when I can sit with the guys and smoke, I know what I'm doing. So whatever, if that's the right way or not, that's how I did it. So they all left. And then I grabbed a 601 cigar and I smoked it and I was super buzzed. Like I was on another level. Man, this shit is so strong. Like I was like, I can't do this. I can't be smoking these all the time. I feel like I'm drunk. And then so whatever, ended up drinking a lot of water, going home. The next morning I come back and Nestor comes to the office and he's like, so what's up? I was like, man, I gotta tell you something. He's like, what? So I smoked a cigar yesterday. He's like, oh no way, which one did you smoke? And I told him 601 Black, and he's like, of all the cigars, that's the cigar that you picked. And I'm like, well, I don't know. I just was kind of drawn to it. Like I don't know anything about these blends or anything at the time, right? So I'm like, I just smoked that one. He goes, you know, that's one of the strongest cigars in our portfolio. And I was like, well, I didn't know that, but it put me on my ass. He's
So
like, did you get sick? I'm like, no, I didn't get sick, but I was just like, I was really dizzy. And he was like, yeah, man, you can't like, it's good that you're kind of trying to like learn, but let me teach you, let me get you onto the right cigars first so you can kind of work your way up to that cigar. And I was like, all right, cool, let's do that. So then from then I always took tips until I figured out what I liked and what zone to smoke in. But I kind of
that's
went
great.
all the way to the top from the beginning with a full strength, full body cigar, and
That was easy straight after
it might
that.
have
Yeah.
ended quick. It might have ended quick in my career there.
Oh
Yeah.
man, that's funny. It's easy straight after that. Gosh bless. Yeah, I remember those 6-1 blacks, man. Back they were they were damn strong. Damn strong back in the day. That's cool. I remember that you guys used to distribute them. You guys have had a lot of successful partnerships over the years.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
some
Yeah.
lasting, just a couple of years, and some lasting for a really long time. But go
Right.
back to what we were talking about with like when you first shared that cigar with him, and then he a couple years later, like you said, you because you started with the company in 2009, right?
Correct.
So were you already a member? Like, were you two already married? Were you already a member of the family, or was this even prior to
Yeah.
the?
Yeah. Yeah. We had
Okay,
just gotten married. Yeah.
okay, cool. I was gonna
Yeah.
say, man, that's a lot of trust even before the wedding. That's fantastic. You must have made up an impression.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, it got a tough time in the family. So his son had passed away a year or so prior to that, which is the reason why the Daniel cigar is named after Danny Miranda, which is
right.
his son. So at that time, his son passes away, and Tatiana, his daughter, really wasn't interested in getting into the business. So he needed to figure out, I need to get somebody from the family into this company. I can't just make that out of nowhere. So he saw me and he's like, you know what, let's give this guy a try. Let's get him in there. I need him to start learning. It's going to take a long time for that to happen. And it can't start until he gets in here. So I think that more or less was his thought process. And now fast forward and it made sense and it worked out for everybody, thankfully.
I know you kind of worked your way from the ground up in the company, but like before you joined the family business, you've always been in sales. Like that was your
Correct.
background, right? You did some
Correct.
corporate sales and things like that.
Yeah.
I remember reading an interview you gave once where you talked about like the dynamics, how they are similar but different, like what you were when you first came to a family business, like
Right.
some of the things that you said or did or things that were implemented, like move the needle very quickly. And sometimes that
Right.
was really good, and sometimes that was really bad. But you saw the needle move, and that was really exciting for you. Oh, talk about that, like the difference of coming from the corporate world where you some even a really good decision can barely move a tick, but
Mhm.
make a decision in a family business, and it can really move the needle, like you said.
Right. That's what it is. It's your decisions. So here in our small family business, decisions that you make, you see the results on it right away, just based off of decisions or moves that are made by us. You'll see right away the uptick or the downturn on decisions that are made. So it's exciting, but at the same time, then so it's more pressure packed, right? Because it's like, all right, this decision really means something because that's it. You're like the ultimate end all be all. That's the answer to whatever we're trying to figure out. And then now it's got to sink or swim. So and it goes back to your decision as opposed to in corporate where it's got to jump through all the ladders and jump through all the different hierarchy and whatnot to get to the top. And by the time that decision or that idea gets to the top, it could be changed like 3, 4, 5, 12 different times. So just here in our setup, the way that we're doing it, when we're ready to push something, we go through with it. We the decision's made, we think about it, talk it over, make it done. All right, let's go. And then you see it, like you feel the impact right away of both positive and negative. So it's fun, it's exciting. One of my first ones that I did learn from was with my father's cigars in Nicaragua. We had already started about 2 years prior with the Nestor Miranda special selections, the Habano and the Connecticut. They were going great with us. This was actually even before they moved into their factory where they've been now for, I think, over probably 15 years. But in their original factory, working on with them. And then we came up with the idea. La Aurora at the time had this great wrapper they used for their Cien Años at that time. Guillermo had let us know, they had more of that if we wanted to do something with it. We're like, all right, great, let's do a collabo between both countries. So we told Pepin, all right, we've got this wrapper that we want to do this cigar with. We're gonna bring it. We're gonna provide it to you, blah blah whatever. So we take the cigar, we take the tobacco, give it to Pepin. We're like, all right, we need a cigar with this wrapper. All right, great. So he does what he does, works his magic, working on different blends and whatnot. All right, well, this is the winner. Let's go ahead. Let's move forward with this. Start selling the cigar. It's a great uptake, like always at the beginning. Placement's there, but the cigar doesn't turn like the special selection did after the first run. Like, why isn't it turning? We don't get it. Uh, is there a problem with my father? No, of course not. Our other cigars push well. Is there a problem with Aurora? No, we sell their cigars well. So what's going on? Like, what's the issue? So we call Pepin. We're like, Pepin, we're having an issue like with this cigar. Like, what do you think? Like, what's is there something missing on the blend? And his response is, well, you told me what to use, so I just used what you told me what to use. And I was like, shit. All right, point taken. You don't get in the kitchen. You're not the chef. Don't get in the kitchen, right? You talk to the chef, let the chef do his thing, and we let him work his magic. Because at the end of the day, that's not what we do, right? We're not. Miami Cigar is not a cigar maker, right? That's not our expertise. That's not our specialty. Luckily, we're always partnered with the best cigar makers in the world, and they provide us with the best product. But in that project, we tried to get into a piece that wasn't ours just by providing. We're like, all right, this tobacco works great with La Aurora cigars. Why wouldn't it work great with Pepin made cigars? And it wasn't necessarily the case because I don't know, because you bring different ingredients to a chef that hasn't used them before, and he's like, I want to use it now, and you kind of force feed that. You're kind of holding back that master chef from doing what he does best. So we learned that one quick. The brand had to go away. It didn't work, but we learned and we'll never make that mistake again. For sure.
That's cool. That's really cool that you got to use that wrapper though. You know, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, La Aurora, the family there, they've always been through the years. So between my in-laws and Guillermo's father, which is where the relationship started, Don Fernando and Nestor and Mariana were very close. They worked closely together. The families have always had each other's back throughout the years. Whether at one point my in-laws had an issue with tobacco, with actual cigars that they were selling. They had a problem with a manufacturer that they were distributing for. They stopped providing them their cigars. It was a whole big problem. And at the time, obviously, you go from selling X amount of cigars, now you're selling much less because they're not providing you product. And Don Fernando stepped up to the table and goes, you know what, I'm going to hold the cigars that we have for our local market here in the DR to get the Mirandas more cigars so they can continue to fill those pipelines. So he put a hold on his Dominican sales to help him grow his La Aurora sales in the United States, but at the same time, help my in-laws get product when they really needed it because all of the customers needed it. It was during the cigar boom and every retailer was just, they needed cigars. So it worked hand in hand. Both helped each other out. As many times we've helped La Aurora out, La Aurora's helped us out. The Leon family and Miranda family are like one and the same as far as having each other's back and being there. So even to the day now, we're still, they still make the Tatiana cigar for us. But it's one of the brands like you were talking about that we've distributed for many brands through time. That one was a long-standing one. About 25 years we distributed that brand.
That's good to hear that you guys still have maintained that really great relationship. You know, like in business, like business can go one of two ways. You know, like the relationship, it can strengthen a relationship, or it can completely ruin it. You know,
Right.
And it's good to see that, like, even though they've moved on as far as creating their own distribution company,
Right.
And everything. You guys are still able to work together like you have all the
Yeah.
like for the many years ago.
Our last two, La Aurora and Toscano, they're both huge corporations, but both really run at the end of it when you get to the foundation of it as family run businesses, also larger than our Miami Cigar, but there's still a lot of the same concepts and mindsets that both Toscano and La Aurora have. When we decided to switch our structure and not have the outside sales force that we had in years past, I was just honest with them and I told them, guys, look, we'll continue to sell your product for both companies for as long as you'd like us to, but your brands do need that presence of the retailer, of the sales reps constantly going to the stores and visiting, and talking and servicing. Like I'd be doing you a disservice if I just continue to handle your cigars just like that. Like those brands are just not set up for that type of setup.
Mm-hmm.
So we're here for you guys as long as you need us to. My personal recommendation is do whatever you can to set up your own U.S. distribution, your own U.S. entity. Like in La Aurora's case, they did not have one. Toscano did. I was like, you guys do that, get that set up. However we can help, whatever we can do as a means to facilitate that, let us know. And when the time comes, the time comes. So Toscano did it fairly quickly. They were able to get it up and running within a year. La Aurora took a little bit more just because they didn't have that entity in the U.S. So they were able to set that up, but it's still not, I mean, it's all family between them. We talk all the time. We miss each other. We miss like the camaraderie. At least with La Aurora, we still visit regularly because it's still a manufacturer of ours. But Toscano, I see them mostly just at the conventions, and it's like a reunion. It's family. You'll find us a lot in their booth or them a lot in our booth, just because we enjoy each other's company.
That's
Same
awesome.
with La Aurora too. We'll be there one and the same with the others. My guys that used to sold for us for a long time, they're thankfully a lot of them are with other companies now. But we'll still all do the best we can to hang out in conventions or whatnot. It's normally the times where we see each other, but
That's
it's
great.
always a good time to get the family back together and reunite. Decisions are made and business things are done, but we try to keep that bond as tight as we possibly can.
When you guys were actually doing the distribution, that's a really big. You brought up a really interesting point. That's a really big endeavor for those. I mean, like you said, they're two. Like when they get down to it, yes, they're family businesses, but they're two very large corporations, and for them to trust, a small family business like what you guys run to distribute their product and do so successfully for so many years. I mean, that's a really unique dynamic. You don't we were talking about the world you came from, the world I work in. I work in
Right.
corporate sales. Like that, it doesn't work like that.
Right.
It's that's kind
No.
of backwards, and
Yeah.
that's pretty awesome that you guys. I didn't for all the years that I knew you guys worked together. I didn't put two and two together. That's kind of how the dynamic was. That's really great. You mentioned about how the Leon family really helped out
Mhm.
your father-in-law during the boom, and that also had something that I wanted to talk to you about too, because I think that's really unique about y'all's story as well. Is there's companies that were post boom, there are companies that came out of the boom, and yeah, there were a
Mhm.
couple of companies obviously that were pre boom and then kind of found their way and stuff.
Right.
Um, you know, Nestor's story is pre boom. 1989, he's selling cigars out of the trunk of his car. Very
His
similar
wife.
story, very similar story.
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
very similar story to a lot of how these companies got started in garages and things like that. So started small.
Yeah.
But man, I mean the the boom just had to shake him to his core though, and luckily he had that relationship. I mean from those early days, was there ever are you aware of like was he ever considering going back to the world of liquor and alcohol and spirits, or was it always like, no, this is the destiny, this is the path I'm going, and I'm like,
Yeah, was they waited. So in '89, Mariana Miranda, his wife, is the one that started, and the whole concept came behind them meeting. They met a small cigar maker in Miami that was trying to sell bundled cigars. Uh, Kids were older at the time already, so she had time, and she told Nestor, "Why don't I buy cigars from this guy? I'll put him in the car, put him in the trunk, and I'll just visit all of your accounts." So everybody that Nestor had relationships with in Miami, all the
hmm,
liquor stores had at least a small humidor. They had something. So he was like, that's not a bad idea. It's like, all right, so I'm gonna start doing that. So they purchased cigars from this guy, and she started going visiting during the week, visiting all of his liquor stores, coming in as Nestor Miranda's wife. All right, they know who she is. Okay, fine, let's do it. So they started buying cigars. On the weekends, Nestor would work with her. They would go down to the Keys or up to Fort Lauderdale, just make different runs. And say, okay, we're gonna sell $500 worth of cigars, and when we stop, that's it. We're gonna stay in a hotel and then come back. And then a month later, we're gonna sell $1,000 a cigar, like things like that. So they continue to grow their goals to the point that they're in 1991-ish. Nestor decides to take retirement from Southern Wine and Spirits and to move full time into Miami Cigar, because at the time it was only Mariana and Danny that were working at Miami Cigar. Yeah, they begin selling. The guy that was selling them cigars was actually the current distributor for La Aurora at the time. So
Oh,
that's how
okay.
they get to meet La Aurora. This guy actually talks to them about this couple. He's like, I don't know what these two are doing, but the amount of cigars that they're pushing is insane. I'm looking to get out of this business a little bit. Let me stay with this segment of the business, and maybe you give them the rest, and I'll work out with them the back end logistics of it or whatever. So all that goes through. My in-laws end up buying that guy out, and then they end up taking over the full distribution
Oh, wow.
of La Aurora. After flying up to Santo Domingo to meet with Grupo León, which was the family corporation that oversaw all of their businesses. And Nestor tells me that it was like, so him and Mariana and Danny, they go up there to Santo Domingo, big, huge corporate office. They're the owner, Presidente Beer at the time. The bank, they're owning a bunch of stuff. So
Yeah.
they're big time Dominican corporate. And they got this big, long executive table with all the heads of the board there. And my in-laws and brother-in-law get to the table, and they're like, all right, so Danny was like the in the office guy. Mariana was as well. They were both in office, and Nestor was more of the street, which always to the day was always still the same. So they get there, and Danny starts his presentation, and Mariana's talking about the numbers and all of this, and it's not going well. Like Nestor's just not feeling it. He calls like a timeout on the meeting. They go outside for a second. He's like, guys, this is not working. Like they're not feeling what you're kind of throwing out here. Let me take over. And they're like, no, 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 no. This is not a place for you, Dad. Like you're more of the street. Like this, look how corporate they are. Like Danny went to school for this. Let him do it. Like let him be the one. So they go back in. Danny continues, and 2 seconds later, Nestor can't take it anymore, and he starts doing his sales pitch, and this is what we're gonna do, and we're gonna break down this, so we're gonna break it down by segments. We're gonna sell X amount of cigars every day at X amount of money, and he starts just multiplying everything through. And he's like, if you guys just give me a chance, I'm gonna show you guys what we can do. But all we need is an opportunity. And they gave him they left their thing. Oh, it's done. We're never gonna be able to distribute a cigar. And Don Fernando gave him the call and was like, I was very impressed. Nestor, you seem like you know what you're doing. I trust you. I believe in you. Like, let's move forward. Let's do it. And he hung up the phone, and he looked at him. He was like, I told you guys I could do it. And then they started distributing the product, and it was just like, it's crazy. It got to Cigar Aficionado, about this couple from Cuba, like recently into the United States from Cuba, and they're just selling all these cigars, building a sales force, becoming national. They're like, we need to interview these people. So they get to Miami, get a contact with Nestor and Danny and Mariana. They do a spread in 1993 on the Miranda family, 6 pages, on just the different things and the hustle and flow of everything that they've done, how they got to the amount of cigars they got to, the amazing story, right? The American dream. He sends one to my wife, which at the time was in Gainesville, University of Florida, and she reads the magazine. She's like, "Wow, Bobby, it's amazing! Like this is so great. Like they're talking about you guys and the whole thing, and but you don't mention me anywhere. And when I'm not in school, I'm with you guys working. Like we're cellophaning cigars, we're banning cigars, or we're making deliveries. She even had in the summer, she had her own sales route that she would do. She's like, oh, you didn't mention me. And he's like, you know what? You're totally right. I apologize. I'll make it up to you. So the next time she came down for break, he had tins of cigarillos with a Tatiana name on the outside. And she was like, oh, wow, what is this? She's like, oh, it's a gift for you. Like, I'm so sorry. We're thinking about doing something, but I had to make up this artwork. What do you think? She's like, oh, it's beautiful. Thank you so much. And at the time, her brother wasn't sure, like, if they would release it as a brand or not. But, like, my dad's doing it for a gift for my dog, for my sister. That's fine. And then some guy comes into the office. He's like, oh, what's that? And Nestor's like, oh, about to tell him a story. He's like, how many do you have? I'll buy them all. And he's like, oh, no, well, I don't have them right now, but they're in production. So he put them in production right away, started selling the brand. So that's how the Tatiana brand started that way. Just kind of like as an I'm sorry to his daughter. that became a project and became one of the largest cigars now in our industry, which is amazing.
No kidding. Yeah, I was gonna say that I have a similar story with Tatiana. Um, as you know, I worked retail for a number of years, and we always did well with Tatiana. So it's not like it was a big secret or something like that. But um, we a lot of people were just like we sold a lot of those out the door. We didn't have a lot of people that hung out in the lounge smoking those for one reason or whatever.
Right.
But for one day, a gentleman had gotten Kevin sat down, and our general manager and the employees were like, "Hey," and don't hold me to this, Chase. I can't remember which one it was, but one of you guys had released a new flavor, and we were like, "Well, let's try it out." So we all lit it up. So we're all smoking Tatianas, and this guy we've never met comes in, and it's like, "What's that? What are y'all smoking?" We're like, "We're smoking the new Tatiana." He's like, "Awesome. How many do you have?" We're like, "Oh, well, well, we have boxes." No, how many boxes do you have? And we ended up selling all of them. Not the new flavor,
Right.
all the Tatianas that we had in the store to that guy. Like it's a very similar story, and it was the most incredible thing I've ever seen. It was the most incredible thing I've ever seen. And my general manager at the time looks at me, he's like, you believe me now that these things keep the lights on? I was like, 1,000%, we're good. Let's go. Because it was very early in my retail career, so I really didn't know all the power of that brand. But what a nod to your wife, though. I mean, that's she gets unfortunately doesn't get mentioned in an article, and your father-in-law just so moved by his daughter's hard work and everything, names a brand, and it ends up being the power broker in the whole thing.
It's evolved into just so many different offsets and brands and sizes and different blending techniques and things that we've been doing over the last couple of years. It's awesome. It's great. It's definitely a family brand after my wife, so that kind of she always makes it known. She's like, "You always have all samples of all these cigars. You better have samples of mine." I'm like, "I always do." I gotta make sure I always have those with me.
That was a great celebration last year at the trade show back in July, where you and I actually had the opportunity to speak about it. But we got to celebrate 25 years of Tatiana with the 25th anniversary.
Yep.
That cigar got released in the fall. How did that end up doing for you all? I mean, it had to be such a real celebratory moment for the entire family and the fans.
Yeah, it was great. It was so totally different blending technique and process to that one. We wanted to bring it out to the market to see what our consumers thought on it before bringing it out as a full-on brand. So thankfully everything went good. Feedback went great. So from the retailers to the consumers to being out of stock now, it was just a limited run. So 2,500 boxes, 25,000 cigars. Just went through those just to get the mindset feel of everybody on it. Everybody liked the blend. So we're going to come out with them in a couple different sizes. Not sure yet if it'll be a late release this year or at PCA next year. More than likely probably be PCA next year. Just to give it its full platform to have a nice full-on release of the Tatiana 25th, but under a new name, under its new brand, which would be
okay.
Okay,
great.
Time. Yeah,
and that's great that you'll be doing different vitolas too with it. And then recently, this just was announced a few days ago too, was the Delights, which is a new evolution of the brand too. Still not flavored, but sweet tipped. But and in completely different sizes that the Tatiana fans not used to seeing either, which is very unique as well.
Yeah, so we wanted to work on something. So this was something we worked on directly with Manuel, the master blender at La Aurora. We talked to him. We're like, all right, look, we do have this formula that's put in place here with the current blends and sizes and everything that we do have with Tatianas. And we want to see what were to happen if we could soup up this blend a little bit, right? Like, let's go ahead and let's add additional premium fillers, binders, and wrapper to this cigar and just give it a sweet tip, right? Because our Tatiana smokers are used to that sweet experience. But maybe we can give them their next cigar, kind of backing down a little bit on being so like flavorful and just having a little bit of sweetness to it with a premium Connecticut blend on it. And I think this cigar is phenomenal. Like it's an easy smoking cigar, 3 different sizes. So 550, 650, 750. So you got your Churchill, Toro-ish, and Robusto. on those 3 different sizes, and we just received them last week and started shipping them. So we sold them at PCA. We had good response. We had samples there for everybody to try. Everybody did like the cigar. It's a very easy cigar to smoke. It's not harsh at all. But if you're really looking for nuances in the cigar, you can really get it. It's not just a sweet tip cigar. So looking forward to seeing now. Now it's the next step, right? So we got the placement there. It's in all the stores, but now we need to see what the consumer thinks about the product. So that's phase that's phase 2 of the process.
Yeah, I didn't know the backstory. I'll be honest with you. We were kind of dividing and conquering as a group, and I was really remiss, and I was upset that I didn't get to go by the booth, but obviously the rest of my team did this year.
Yeah.
So I ended up getting a sample of the Delight. So I didn't know the backstory of it, and I was like, oh, I wonder what flavor this is, right? So I lit, kind of lit it up, and I was like, oh, it's a new size. Obviously, I'm not used to seeing this size, and I lit it up, and I was like, okay, oh, all right. And I thoroughly, I'm not a flavored cigar smoker typically.
Right.
I mean, I'll enjoy them from time to time. I'm not that
Mhm.
big of a snob. I've come to grips with that. Like that, I just, there's nothing wrong with enjoying. They're fantastic.
Right.
And I was like, okay. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was really smooth, creamy.
Yeah.
But it, like, once you kind of got past that, the sweet tip kind of incorporated with the rest of the tobacco, it was a really, really well balanced cigar, and the construction was phenomenal too. Who makes that for? Is La Aurora makes it too?
Tatiana's all made in La Aurora, yeah.
Oh,
So the
fantastic.
concept on that one, on the 25th, on basically a lot of these limited editions that we've done over the last few years. So we did a total 6x54 and a couple of different flavors. Um, so all 100% long filler, hand rolled with subtle flavoring or sweet tip, one of the two or both. But the idea behind it is so trying to we have our loyal customers that are great followers of the brand, and thankfully we keep a consistent product there, and they know that and they follow it, which is great. So those mainstay brands and sizes will always be there. But what I'm looking at now is so kind of going back to spirits. So I always like our background always goes back to spirits. So in the spirits industry, I think I'm a big consumer of the spirits industry. I like my straight spirits, but at the same time, I enjoy cocktails too. Like I don't just always drink a straight bourbon or a straight tequila or what the case may be. I do like to start the night with a cocktail and then go to a straight drink or what the case may be. So why isn't it seen like that in cigars, right? So trying to make it a little bit easier or to understand or interpret or to even explain to a consumer is so you give them that analogy of the cocktail and the straight drink. So yeah, you guys like your premium blends with no flavoring or no sweet tip or anything added to it. I get it, but that doesn't mean that you never have to smoke them. If it's the same premium tobacco in it, but a little twist on it, why not give it a try? Because we do the same thing with the cocktails. So when I explain that to people, they kind of get it and they're like, you know what, that is true. And I just give it a try. Like try this. If you don't like it, it's okay, just put it down. Like don't smoke it. But then they try some ones like, oh, this is not too bad. Oh, this is too sweet. All right, that's too sweet. Same thing. I have cocktails. I'm like, that's way too sweet. I can't drink that. But when you get the subtle additives and things in there that you like, maybe it's something that you would enjoy. So that's what we try to get to with when we're talking to our retailers or talking to consumers is just that concept of not trying to take you away from what you love, but at the same time, there is other things out there that you may enjoy as well.
Wow. Jason, I've been smoking cigars for over 2 decades, and I've been in the cigar industry for coming up on 15 years. I don't think I've ever had anyone explain that to me like that, and that is a perfect analogy.
It just makes
That
sense.
is a perfect analogy. I don't think I've ever heard anyone describe it that way.
Yeah.
That makes total sense. That's awesome. That makes total
We gotta
sense.
get them. We gotta get them to think. You gotta think that way because it helps. It helps that we're all drinkers too. So I try to. I'm like,
Yeah.
in our business, we try to think like,
Yeah.
okay, so how do I think like the consumer? Why does the consumer go to cigar A and B instead of C or what the case may be? And I'm like, man, dude,
Yeah.
you're a consumer too. Like I'm a consumer. I go into the liquor store. I love to look at all the bottles and the packaging and talk to people and wine and the blends and like I love that. So I'm like, all right, so I am that consumer. So if I'm that consumer, what draws me to something? Like and then just using that and flipping it back. There's so much synergy into the two. And that one's worked very well with us to
Yeah.
get that. And that's why we see with a lot of the new projects that we're doing, it's just to see, like they're additions to the portfolio, but you never know. One of these could be one that hits, and then it rides with all the other brands the other sizes that do well, that have been doing well for 25 years. So
That's
it's
absolutely brilliant. And I'm
that's
thinking
where
because
we're at.
I'm also thinking about like the way, like, hey, how do you take your coffee too? Because that could be also another comparison. But the cocktail
Mhm.
comparison, the spirits comparisons, that's absolutely brilliant. What I also liked, what you guys did too, and this was released back in the fall too. We talked about this last summer. Was the Nestor Miranda 80th released in three different sizes, and they were very
Yeah,
special sizes.
they were.
One
Yeah.
was the very first Vitola that Nestor ever smoked. The second
Mhm.
was his favorite Vitola, and
Right.
then the Vitola that's made you guys famous in honor of his late son, your late
Right.
brother-in-law, the Dano. So those are all shipped out, and they're gone, right? It was a
They
one and
got
done project. Done.
Yeah, yeah. So it's so on that side, so our portfolio is split in two. So we have the Tatiana brand with all its sub brands on it on one side, and then on the other side we have the Nestor Miranda brand and the Don Lino brands. On the Nestor brand, so similarly like what we're talking about with not having that outside sales force, makes it hard for us to come on with these just full online releases of a constant, continuous product because it is very time intensive, labor intensive for the reps. I mean, you were in retail. You know, the rep would have to go in, they would sell the product, promote the product, do whatever samplings or events or tastings or whatever needed to be to help the store to continue to rotate that product. Because after a while, it doesn't matter how great the cigar is, it kind of gets a little bit stale to the consumer because they've smoked it already. Even if they love it,
Mhm.
they've already moved on because there's so many great cigars, and that's just the nature of our business. So we're not powered that way anymore to have that constant I guess, a conscious support on that dynamic to be able to do all these events for the retailers. So what we've decided, we've changed our mindset when it comes to the Nestor brands and doing more shorter runs, high end, the best cigars that we can possibly do at the best price possible. Smaller runs of 500,000, 1,500 boxes, getting those to the stores, having the consumer try it, love it, and then that's it. They're gone. You got to wait now to the next one. So it works better for us, and I think the retailers like it as well too, because just a constant rotation of new limited stuff. So like we said, the 80th was one that we did for his 80th birthday. We have a Nestor Miranda Grand Reserve that we sold at the convention that's coming now in July. So things like that every year you'll see one or two from the Nestor Miranda brand that are limited runs just to continue. Get that we don't want the name not to drop off. You know, we wanted to keep it in the industry, but at the same time, we don't want to put a burden on our retailers of a brand that's going to sit. You know, they're going to support us. Our retailers have been great with us for over 35 years, and they're going to support the brands. But if the brand doesn't have the support of the reps in the back to do the events, how do we do this to get the product moving?
Right.
And it's through these limited short run type of things that we can do two or three per year, get them done, move, get the volume that we need, get the stores the volume they need as well, and just always be able to replenish and come up with something new. So that's been our focus over the last 3 years with the Nestor brands, and it's worked well. So we're going to continue to do that moving forward.
This is the third edition of the Grand Reserve, correct?
Yeah, so that's from back in the day. So we did 2011 and 2012, and just I don't know. To be honest, I really don't know why we stopped. It was always something that worked well for us, but we moved on and we went into something else, another direction. We stopped doing those limited editions. But then looking at it, I was like, man, we still have these Grand Reserves that the whole project that some people will remember about. Let's go ahead and do that, and it's ready to go. But being approved it, he's like, yeah, let's go ahead and let's move forward with it. Let's do it. So we're like, all right, let's move forward and let's do it again. So this is the first time it'll be out in store since 2012.
That's awesome.
Mhm.
Good. Well, just a couple more questions before we go into our fun segments here, Jason. We know that we have you just for a short time tonight. We definitely do appreciate you committing a Sunday evening away from your family for a little bit to have a conversation. So,
Of course.
there were so touching on this, we've mentioned it a couple of times tonight. You know, it's the 35th anniversary. Thinking about 15 years ago when you sat down, and had that first cigar in the office in
Yeah.
2009, they were celebrating, 20 years. That's, you know, um, that's a lot of time. I mean, that's pretty much smack dab in the middle of the company's history. And in that time, it's come a long way. It's gone through those waves and everything. What are you guys planning? I know that nothing was necessarily displayed at this year's convention just because of that short and quick turnaround. Are you guys planning anything for the 35th, or is the Grand Reserve kind of it, or like what else do you
We've
guys have
got,
in mind?
yeah, we've had so many. So the last 3 years we've had the year of the cigar. So whether it was for Mammy Cigar's anniversary or if it was for the Tatiana anniversary. So And I know it's a cigar industry thing, and we all do it. And believe Miami Cigar and with La Aurora, I don't know if we're the top, but we're pretty high up there on the amount of numbered cigars that we have.
Sure.
I feel like it's like every La Aurora we had the 100 years, we had 107, we had
7.
115, 1495. It's like numbers all over. It's like what is going on? And then Miami Cigar, we do the same thing too. So every year, like 20th anniversary, right when I started, that's when we released the Dano for the first time.
Mhm.
So things like that, we've always done something for the year. So this year we're like, you know what? Let's go ahead. We'll brand the booth. So the booth was branded with the 35th anniversary,
Loved
um,
it.
the logo and the colors and the whole thing. But we're like, you know what? Let's go ahead and let's hold off from doing a Miami cigar. We don't have Miami Cigar branded cigars. We've done them in the past for two different anniversaries for milestones. But like for this one, 35, like let's kind of go ahead and just leave it. Like maybe at 50, we'll do another Miami cigar one. But until then, let's kind of just hold off on the Miami cigar. We'll just do celebrations, things like that. A lot of our promotional stuff was branded. We had like the bags, the lighters, cutters for the 35th anniversary, but not really a cigar. So to answer your question, no, we won't. We won't be doing a 35th anniversary cigar under the Miami Cigar tag.
I love the logo though. Like I love, like you said, you branded it the 35th anniversary. So was that?
Yeah.
I know you're the head of sales and marketing. Was that your creation or your team's creation?
So we have yeah, like we said, we're a small business. We're a small family business. So everybody kind of does a little bit of everything in the office. But yeah, with a couple of designers that we work with, we worked on a couple concepts. And then Inter Miami, the soccer club here, has become like a bigger thing. So it's kind of like the inspiration of the logo. It's very linear, like with the thin lines, and then the pink obviously added to it as well. Was something that we went with. And when I saw they normally bring us about 6 or 7 different options, and then we pick one or two, and then from there we start weeding it out and get to a final one. But when it started getting closer to that, I was like, oh, I really like that. It's very Miami. It's clean. It's modern. Let's move forward with that. And then when I would show it to people, everybody really liked it. It was the winner of the 2 or 3 finalists. So I was like, all right, that's it. Let's just move forward with this one. Everybody likes it.
You know, Nestor has to be the youngest 80-year-old man in the history. Well, now he's 81. 80, 81-year-old man in the world. But like you said, he brought you in because he wanted family to kind of protect that next generation and everything. You're already the vice president of the company and everything. What additional steps do you kind of see yourself taking in the next few years to kind of, you know, not necessarily take over? Nestor's not going anywhere for sure, but like to kind of usher things into the new era. Where do you kind of see you taking the company?
Always the spirits industry, wine industry is always something that I thought would be cool for us to get back into. Like that's where we started. But to maybe get back into that. So we've kind of tipped our toe in it a couple times and taken a look and see, but then we never really make that jump or that plunge in. That would be something in the future that I would like to get into as well. As an add-on, not as something to replace, but to be something additional that we could do. I would really like that. That would be kind of a goal for me to do something like that.
Well, those great family friends, the Grupo Leon, man, they know a thing or two about spirits. So you've already got
Yeah,
a good friend in the biz to figure that out. So that would be really cool.
exactly,
Really
exactly.
exciting.
And just all the contacts that Nestor has in Miami is crazy. So something like that, and then just different distilleries and stuff, different wineries, different factories. So the ability is there, like to get something done. Um, but we need to see what the future holds. But that would be something exciting and interesting for me to get into.
Well, awesome. That's exciting. Well, the next series of questions, Jason, are to conclude our evening, are what I call our fun segments here. We know that you have a brief amount of time left, so we'll go ahead and skip to them and everything. But I just want to thank you again before we get through the fun segments here. Just really appreciate your time this evening. What a great story! I can't wait to have you back because there's so many things that we missed that I'd love to dive a little deeper into. But it was such a great opportunity. Thanks for sharing a beautiful beverage with me, letting me light up the Habano, and just really enjoying our conversation this evening thus far. So thank you so much.
Not
Um,
a problem. Been a good time.
all right, so let's go ahead and get our fun segments kicked off with our presidential trivia segment. Don't worry, Jason, it's multiple choice, but this segment is brought to you by United Cigars, featuring La Giana Havana, distributors of Jose Dominguez, Bandolero, Garofalo, the Firecracker, and the highly acclaimed Atabey Byron. And now Alfonso lines from Selected Tobacco, Smoke Once a Day, and Start Living United. So, Jason, this segment is U.S. presidential trivia, but it's all about your home state of Florida. So I thought that this would be I thought this was a really cool bit of trivia, and you may or may not know. Growing up in Florida, you might have learned it in history class. So Florida became a state on March 3rd, 1845.
Okay.
This was actually the day before this person became president. So the day before he was sworn in as president, Florida became a state. So
Perfect.
which president was sworn in one day after Florida became a state? Was it A, John Tyler, B, James Polk, C, Franklin Pierce, or D, Zachary Taylor?
Oh my God, I don't even know any of those. We're gonna go. So when I started taking tests, they always told me that if you have no idea what the answer is, to answer C. So I'm gonna go with C.
C, Franklin Pierce. Okay. Yeah, so I put them all together. This is a short time in history where like everybody was basically just running for like basically served one term as president. So it's a really confusing time. But I thought this was an interesting point of trivia. It was actually James Polk. So James Polk became president one day after Florida became a state. Florida became a state during John Tyler's presidency. Fun fact, John Tyler was never elected. He was the vice president to William Henry Harrison, who died right after his inauguration because he got sick in the rain and stuff like that. And so, yeah, so that's Florida became a state one day before James K. Polk was inaugurated as president. So fun facts.
Fun fact.
So, because you went to Christopher Columbus High School, right?
I did.
It seems like a lot of people in the cigar industry went to. Is it a big school? I'm not familiar with it. Is it a bigger high school? Okay.
Yeah, it's all boys. It's a private high school, all boys, but it's there's about 2,000 students in total.
Oh wow, 2,000s in a private school. That's crazy.
Yeah,
that's
crazy.
It's
a good size private school.
Yeah. I feel
big
like
campus, really good at sports. It's got a nice alumni base. There's a lot of brotherhood there.
Yeah, I think I've interviewed I think at least 2 or 3 other people that went to that high school at different times and stuff.
My son just graduated from there last week, so it's you graduate from there, your kids got to go there.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's awesome. What was your strongest subject in school?
Math, by far.
Math.
Yeah, my mom was the math teacher growing up, so I guess she kind of put that on us.
How about that? What did she teach? What grade level did she teach?
All over, but mostly it was 4th to 6th grade. Was her main thing when I was growing up, and then she went over to 7th and 8th grade afterwards.
And taught math. Wow.
Yeah.
God, she taught math to middle schoolers. Oh my gosh, your mom's a saint. Holy shit. Jesus.
It really is. It really is. Yeah.
Oh God, that's ruthless. That man. Yeah. My God, is she still with us? Is your mom still with us?
Yes.
Oh gosh,
she just retired. This year's her first year retired.
Oh, well, congratulations to her. Yeah. Fantastic. She made it through. My God.
Yep, she did.
That's great. Well, congratulations to your son and daughter as well from graduating from high school. They're going off to college next year. That's fantastic. So, well, wonderful.
Yeah. Excited for them. It's an excited time.
It's great. And your kids are choosing. We talked about this before the show. They're choosing a little bit different path. They're not going to Florida State.
They're not.
But they are going to some pretty exciting places. Though. This is pretty cool.
Yeah. So my daughter's going to school in Boston. So it's Suffolk University, and then my son's going to school in Spain. So he's going to Universidad Europea, which is about 20 minutes outside of Madrid.
That's awesome.
So they're going for it. So we'll see how it goes. I'm excited for them both, and really optimistic, and looking forward to traveling and spending time with them.
No joke. Yeah. Family weekends will be fun at those places. You mentioned that he wanted to go. He was the one who initiated the thought to Spain. Have you guys vacationed in Spain a bit? Like, what was it about the country that kind of got him excited about it?
Oh, no, he had never been with us. My wife and I have been a couple times, but he had never been with us. But it's starting to become a thing in Miami, with the kids getting interested to go not just study abroad for a semester, but start off their college careers abroad. So 2 years ago, it kind of was like the first wave of kids kind of even talking about it. Then last year, more kids started doing it. And he was like, I'm really interested in this. And I was like, all right, if you're serious about it, when you're a senior, we'll go to Madrid and we'll check out the schools. So the time came and he was like, yeah, I want to do this. And I was like, all right, do your research. Let's see what schools you're interested in and let's go see them. So he made a list of 5 different schools. We went up to Madrid, him, my godson, me and my wife. And we went up and we visited Madrid. We did a couple like tourist tours and that, just to show them the city, show them the history of it, visit the schools, and then go to a couple of restaurants and go out at night a couple of times just so they could feel the city and feel the town and like the whole vibe. And they fell in love. They were like, wow, this is amazing. I always love it. We have a great time when we're there. I was a little hesitant to have him go to school in Madrid, in the city, by himself at 18. So we picked the school that was outside of the city. It's about 30 minutes away. So he's close enough that on the weekends he could go into the city. But at least during the week he's outside, at least 30 minutes out. So it takes an effort for him to go by bus or train or whatever the case may be to get into the
Takes
city.
an effort to go party. He can stick his nose in the book for the rest of the week. There we go.
Exactly. As opposed to just going down from the building and just being in the city already and doing what you got to do. He's a little bit further away.
That's awesome.
So, first year, we'll see how it goes, and then if it goes better, then maybe we let him stay in the city. We'll see.
Oh, congrats to both of them. That's fantastic. Well, we got a little off track there, but that was our presidential trivia segment brought to you by United Cigars, featuring La Giana Havana, distributors of Jose Dominguez, Bandolero, Garofalo, the Firecracker, the highly acclaimed Atabey, Byron, and now Alfonso lines from Selected Tobacco. Smoke one today and start living united. And starting on June 14th, later this month, on June 14th, Flag Day, we'll be doing our 20 Days of Freedom campaign once again. We did this last year, so we'll be smoking a United cigar each day for 20 days. So that marks the amount of days exactly between Flag Day, which celebrates also our nation's Army's birthday. That's also the Army's birthday is June 14th, all the way to our nation's Independence Day on July 4th. There are 20 cigars in a United cigar box. So pick up your box of United today and join our campaign on Instagram hashtag 20 Days of Freedom, hashtag 20 Days of United. So you can do that if you want, and check out wherever you're find United cigars being sold today. So I'm going to be doing that again this year. I'm really excited about it, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So this moves us on to our next segment, Jason, which is Everybody Eats, which is sponsored by Postano Cigars. If you always make sure that your servant's towel is bigger than your appetite, everybody will always get theirs. Postano Cigars is more than just great cigars made by cool people. They embody an attitude of gratitude and grit. With Postano, everybody eats. So our pre-show discussion kind of inspired this, the way I'm going to reframe this question. Usually I have a selection of choices, but you mentioned Spain.
Mm-hmm.
So I was wondering, so what was in the time that you spent visiting there, colleges for your son, what was your favorite meal that you ate there, and what was it and where was it?
The pata negra is always the best there. So just like the different sliced hams and stuff that you can have when you're just even from this off the streets and the little markets and whatnot. That's always the top of the line for me. I mean, when you get it there, it's different than anywhere else, and it's delicious. Like that's definitely my go-to when I go there. But the food, it's just so different than in the States. It's much more affordable, and it's just every little market or little bodega that you go to, the food there, I feel like it's all like tapas style. So it's just always like picking. So never like a huge meal or a huge plate, but it's always just a little bit of picking, whether with wine or with a beer, and it's like it all goes great. So I'm a big fan of the food in Spain.
So do they serve the meat, the hams just by itself, or like in these little sleeves? Do they serve it with bread? Like how do they
So
serve it?
a bunch of different ways. So pata negra, a lot of times, so it'll come even like in a, man, I mean, it's kind of like a paper cone, like maybe like those old school that you would use like the water dispensers, like the
Oh
little
yeah, yeah,
cones,
yeah.
and
Okay.
they'll have them sliced in there. So like in the little street bodegas, they'll serve them like that. In the nicer restaurants, they'll actually place it on like in a circular formation on the plate. And it's just so thin. It's crazy. It's like paper thin, and it melts in your mouth. Like the fat is so good. But
That's
for
awesome.
us, like that whole situation, like that with some cheeses and some wine, like it's a wrap. Like I'm where I want to be right there with that. So that's what they're about. They're about all like just small plates, and you can eat till you're full. You still can eat a lot of food, but it's just picking throughout the night, which is great.
I'm sold. I love charcuterie boards.
Hmm.
Man, I could do that, and that's could do that all the time. I really like we were talking about Europe and just being able to travel so much and stuff. Like I love going to Europe and just like you said, just kind of sampling different things because there's so many street markets, so much food
Right.
like just sold on the cart or like the bodegas like you talked about. It's awesome. I love that experience too.
Yeah.
Um, it's really fantastic. Oh, cool.
We did a tour. Was it like Taste of Spain or something like that? It was referred through a couple of friends that they had done it too. So it's basically it's a walking city tour in city center, but it's based around the foods as well. So as you're eating, they're giving
Oh,
you the history of all each different areas. But you go to these little places that you would never even find, like a little stuffed mushroom caps that were amazing, and like a ham from here, but then here, there, like everything was different, but it was all
huh.
in small little retail spots that we would have never even walked into.
Oh, that's
But it was
crazy.
such a cool experience, and it was like not just to get the history, like the kids they're not gonna like that. Like it's boring, but you're doing it as you're eating and you're talking. It was very interactive. The lady was like super on point on it too. She was very good at reading her audience and seeing. So she like saw us and then the two kids. I'm like, this is why we're here. I want them to, fall in love with this city. This is what they like, but they like it because they think they're gonna party here and all that. But let's give them like a background of the city, so they're like, man, this city is cool as well, not just because I want to party. So she was able to kind of adjust to them, and I thought it was perfect. We had great food, great conversations. It was a good time.
That's awesome. That sounds like
Mhm.
right up so something right up my alley for
Yeah, it
sure.
was, it was it was awesome.
Well, awesome. Well, that was our Everybody Eats segment sponsored by Postania Cigars. Postania's is more than just great cigars made by cool people. They embody an attitude of gratitude and grit. With Postania, everybody eats. So, Jason, this next segment is brought to you by Asylum Cigars. Refuge is more than just a physical place, it can be a state of mind. Some of life's greatest reflections can be found in our own personal asylum. Moments like these were made for Asylum Cigars, so light up an asylum and choose your refuge. You kind of already described one earlier today when you're talking about your first cigar as an employee of Miami Cigar Company on that first day on the job. But for the most part, throughout your career, throughout mine as well, like cigars are very much a communal thing. Like we're sharing a cigar. I'm sharing a cigar with you tonight. You go do events,
Hmm.
things like that. So you're always around people, but every once in a while, like you did on your first day on the job, it's just you and the cigar. Like you have a moment, and it could be a moment of celebration, it could be a moment of reflection, it could be a moment, whatever. You've probably had a good amount of these over your career.
Right.
But so I'm not asking you to pick your favorite or anything like that, but talk to us about a moment like that, and if you can remember what was that moment about, and if you can remember what was the cigar you were smoking.
Right. So I can remember. I've been asked this one before, so I was already ready for this one. This one, and it's 2013 in Pasadena, California, when the Seminoles won the national championship. That cigar with my brother was my best cigar ever. It was just an awesome experience. It was the whole weekend. The trip was great. My whole family was there. We had a great time leading up to the game. And the game, I think it's one of the most underrated national championship games of all time. They went up big, Auburn up big at the beginning. We came back. They scored with a minute left, and we scored with like 10 seconds left to win the game.
Mm,
There was a little bit of everything in that game. And it was just after, like the celebration was awesome. But then after that, just to sit down and relax and smoke a cigar, like overlooking the Rose Bowl was crazy. It was
that's
an
awesome.
amazing experience. Yeah,
Do
that
you
was
remember
my
what
that
cigar it
was my
was by
memory.
chance?
Yeah, it was a Grand Reserve 2011.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
Beautiful, beautiful.
yeah. It
Do you,
was
do you
awesome.
still do you still go to a lot of games?
I do. So we go. My daughter lives in Tallahassee now, so I try to go to 2 or 3 home games a year, and then at least one road game um, every year. So
Did you get to a
that's
road game this past season?
this past season we went to. How did we go? Oh, yeah, but not really. Orlando, the LSU game.
Okay.
So that was a road game that we picked. So it wasn't really like a big one. This year we got a good one. We're doing Notre Dame at Notre Dame.
Oh, going to South Bend. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah. So it'll be I've been there twice, so it'll be the third time that we go.
I was gonna
One of
do this.
my child from kindergarten, one of my best friends since kindergarten. He graduated from Columbus with me, and he went to Notre Dame. Ended up meeting his wife over there and stayed. He lived in Indiana the rest of his life. Uh, yeah, so he never
That's
came back. But he was a Seminole with me through high school, and then we lost him. Obviously, he went to Notre Dame.
awesome.
But we do so whenever they play in Tallahassee. he comes with me, and then whenever we go over there, I go over there. So this will be the third time that we hang out over there. So it's a cool experience. It's so different.
That's what I
It's
was gonna
like
say. I've always wanted to go to a game in South Bend. My brother grew up. He attached himself to Notre Dame, so he's still a Notre Dame fan.
yeah,
Loves them.
it's just so crazy that it's such a small like little town. Like
Yeah,
it's like there ain't shit to do there. Nothing. Like it's the whole game day experience is amazing because just walking around, like everything that you see is like, oh my, there's that. Like there's touchdown Jesus. There's like everything that
yeah.
you've seen on TV, like you see it and it's like you spend hours just looking. Like it the whole thing about the game day experience is like tailgating and barbecuing and drinking. There you don't even need to do that. Like the first time you go, it's just like so much sightseeing that it's amazing.
Mm.
And then you go to the game, but then after that it's like you gotta get out of South Bend.
There's so many major colleges that are like
There's
that
shit to
too.
do.
Like Texas A&M
Uh-huh.
is literally in a town called College Station,
Right.
and the population shrinks by something obnoxious like 40% when school lets out in the summer.
Right.
It's ridiculous. Knoxville, Tennessee is like that too, where the University of Tennessee is.
Right.
You mentioned on game day, the stadium in Tennessee, the stadium becomes the fourth largest city in the state of Tennessee on game day because the stadium has like 104,000 people in
Yeah,
it,
it's a
which
monster.
is just crazy. It's just
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
And
That's
there's
what
there's a lot of towns like that.
I'm
So
looking forward to. Hopefully the Seminoles getting out of the conference and going to one of these other two big conferences just for that fact to be able to travel to these other schools. I mean, the ACC, there's really not that many schools that I like to go visit. Um, but in these other colleges to get to visit, I mean, either one, if it's Big Ten or SEC, like there's just so many cool experiences.
I mean, I know Tallahassee's the capital. I mean, how big is Tallahassee? It's one of the smaller cities in
Small.
the state, right?
Yeah, it's small. But even that is like there's a couple like restaurant, there's things to do. It's like a
Right.
town, like South Venice is not nothing.
It's just yeah, it's
Yeah,
just
Chicago.
it's weird.
Chicago's close enough. Right, flying to Chicago, spend a couple of days there, and then game day go over another day.
Right. Awesome.
Yeah.
Is there any cigar shops in South Bend?
Not that I know of. Holy
That's
shit, there.
crazy. Oh man. Well, there's an idea for the Miranda family. You guys could open up a shop.
Why not? There's no people there.
Yeah,
Let's
good
do it.
call. Go
Let's
out
do
of
it.
business pretty quick. Not a good business plan. That's why you're the
Yeah,
business guy, Jason. You
yeah,
got the stuff figured out.
yeah.
All right.
But if you do Notre Dame branded cigars, I bet you sell a lot of them there.
Oh, no joke. Absolutely.
Yeah, they buy anything Notre Dame branded.
That's good. Well, what a fun moment.
Mhm.
Well, this is our last question of the night, Jason. Again, thank you so much for spending time with us. I know that you had squeezed us into your busy schedule, and I know work comes early tomorrow, and I know you got to take care of some family stuff before you wrap up the night. So thank you so much
No
with this.
problem.
So,
Yeah.
so our last question of the night is our curveball segment, which is always brought to you by Dunbarton Tobacco and Trust. Fastballs or curveballs, it doesn't matter. Since the company's inception, Steve Saka has been knocking them out of the park 9 consecutive years in the consensus top 3. Congratulations to our good friend, Mr. Steve Saka. So, Jason, we talked about this. There were a lot of in the 15 years that you've been in the business and in the 35 years that Miami Cigar has existed, there's been a lot of changes, a lot of
Mhm.
ups, downs, like anything else in life and everything. But this was an interesting question that I thought, and that I thought would be worth answering. What's the biggest in the time that you've been in the company, so the last 15 years? What's the biggest change that changed the company for the better? And what's the biggest change um, that changed you for the better in the last 15 years?
What's the biggest change? All right, the one for me, I think it's when my in-laws decided to, so this was probably like 10 years ago. They decided that the time was right for me to go ahead and take over and to be the head man in the company, making like the day-to-day decisions and making the company go. I think that was the best decision for me because it allowed me to grow where I kind of didn't have the opportunity to do it, or I was, but at a much smaller pace.
Mhm.
But it gave me the confidence because they wanted to ride with me. You know what I'm saying? Like they were like, ready, you're ready. And I was like, all right, I felt like I was ready, but I didn't know 100%. I'd been in the industry, or we're talking about 6 years, 7 years. was like, I thought I was ready to do it, but again, you're gonna have your bruises, your lumps and bruises and whatnot. But them giving me that confidence by showing that they were confident to do that, that was the biggest step or change for me. Because it was goal time. Like that was it. Like you're ready now. We're telling you you're ready. Now show us and prove that we're right. So that was huge. And I think I grew a lot. Just like in the following 18 months, was probably, not probably, definitely was my biggest growth in the cigar industry. Was that those 18 months after that. Because that's it. It was on. Like the pressure was on, and now it's your show, and you have all these ideas and everything. Now you're gonna put them into action, and let's see if you could sink or swim. And it worked out, which was awesome.
I know you kind of worked your way from the ground up. You did a lot of different things and stuff. What
Mhm.
was there a role that you spent the most time in before your current role as vice president of sales and marketing?
Um, so they were all kind of like at the beginning they were defined roles. Like it was whether if it was like warehouse, it was a sales rep, it was customer service, like accounts receivable. They were all like defined roles. But after the receivables role, then it kind of became like different hybrid ones. Um, the one that I was with the longest was that had to do with both sales and marketing,
Okay.
but not running either the marketing or the sales. So kind of being like a second guy on both of them.
Okay.
Uh, so like reporting to the top two guys in the company. That was the
Yeah.
one that I did the most, and that was probably like maybe like almost 3 years.
Like a director role and to equivocate it to like the corporate world.
Kind of, yeah, like the middleman between like the head of sales and the sales force,
Yeah.
and then not even the middleman, like the facilitator for the guy that did the marketing, and then all of our vendors and dealing with all the vendors.
Oh, that's cool.
Um, and that was the most, like at the time, that was the most work too, because it was a lot of different things, put in a
Those
lot
are
of different hats.
everyone compares them to being very similar, but like sales and marketing are very different. So the fact that
For
you
sure,
tackled
for
both
sure,
of them at once
100%.
is insane.
Yeah,
So
marketing could be fun. It could be the whole marketing side of it is awesome. It's just I feel like when you don't dedicate 100% of your time to it, um, it kind of just become like second nature, and you just kind of put it on autopilot as to what you're always doing, and then it gets old, and then it gets stale, and you can see it in the company. So I think you need to have somebody needs to be full-time focused on that. It can't be how I was doing it. That didn't make sense.
absolutely. What about the biggest change that's changed the company for the better?
So the biggest change that changed the company for the better, but it did have its downsides to it as well. Was a couple of years ago when we got rid of our entire like we got rid of the concept of outside sales and brought it all inside. Because it was the right move for the company. It was allowed us to get to that next level, which is where we could always be, but it just for whatever reason it never clicked. Making that change and switching everything to more phone based, more instant service for our retailers, as opposed to waiting till every time that our guys would get to the store, just being there a phone call or an email away. It definitely helped us service our guys, and it catered to more of our Tatiana retailers. It was what the Tatiana retailer needed, just more hands-on, but at the same time, just being there, letting them know what they don't have and what they do need. But then it's not all positive because it was 10, 12 plus years of a relationship with 20 different sales reps that we had forever. That was a tough thing to see, because we were such a tight group, still close to a good amount of them, but that was a tough part, because it's even the business decision being like, so like it's in your face, like you see it, like that's what needs to be done. um but then knowing the other side of it, like what actually needs to be done, like that was hard. That was a probably one of the worst days. But it had to be done. Um, and so that's kind of like the plus plus and then the minus minus
Right. Do you
of the
ever see a
situation.
time in the future where you might go back to that model?
Um, if things were to have like certain things will go not our way in the industry, that we would have to restructure the way we're set up. We would need to go back to that. But if things can continue in the way that it looks like they're trending, with some of our brands, then we really wouldn't, because you got to cater to your brands. So it's the same story. Like we had Tatiana's, we had Lauroras and Toscanos. This structure works for Tatiana, doesn't really work for Toscano or for La Aurora. That's why they needed to make adjustments. So I mean, you never say never, but now the sales force was necessary as a distributor. We needed the sales force because we had to answer to the companies that we distributed for. Obviously, they wanted numbers, they wanted results. But now that it's just our brands, we can cater our sales structure to what we want. So see, I mean, we still get people. There's not too many cigar distributors, right? That most of all the manufacturers now, they have their own distribution companies and their own teams. So when let's say like a small manufacturer, a small brand is striving to get to that mid-tier, they're looking for a big distributor to be able to distribute for them, but that really doesn't exist. Like it used to in the past, but as time went by, they all became in-house or they dissolved. We get a lot of calls from people like, I want to see like if you'd be interested in distributing us. At the current time, we just distribute our own brands. We really don't distribute for other companies. They're like, oh, who can I go to? And I'm like, man, there really isn't that many. Like it's tough. Like, and you've seen it through the years. Like not so much recently, but in a couple of years past, like companies trying to do it. They're like, because it doesn't work. And they're like, all right, let's get 3 or 4 smaller guys, put them together, and we'll be a mid-size. It makes total sense, but it doesn't ever really work. I don't know why.
Y'all were the last domino, really. I mean, you could probably say the last one is Drew Estate and Hoya de Nicaragua, like Hoya. But
right.
I mean, I don't have any inside knowledge to this. My gut is telling me that Hoya will have their own sales force within the next 5 years.
That relationship is very much like us and La Aurora.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Like that whole concept. So they're 2 entities, but they're so intertwined. Like they produce for each other. Like the whole thing, like they're so together. But yes, I agree. The time will come because in the distribution setup, it's like whenever we have a lot of experience in it. A lot of times the company always feels when you own brands and you distribute, that company that you distribute for, always inside, whether they say it or not, and some would tell us, some wouldn't, but I know they felt it. They always felt like we pushed our brands more than we pushed their brands. So that's always the dynamic of it that it's so difficult. And it was so far from the truth, but I can see man, you sell your brand more than ours. Hey, well, my brand's better. Like it's tough because I don't know nothing about Drew Estate and Hoya, but that has to go through your head. They're like, man, but your brand sells more than mine. Like, oh, ours is a little bit bigger than yours. Like and that's just natural, and that would be a natural like feel for anybody. Like I said, it happened to us a bunch of times with different companies that we distributed for.
Yeah, I mean this is my last point. And I know you got to go, Jason, but yeah, when I first started in the business, you guys were so intertwined that it was almost like you didn't know where one ended and one started. Like I knew you, of course, and I knew like Hector Paz and Manuel Noah. Like it was almost kind of like, wait, who works for who and who does this? Yeah, it was almost like it was so intertwined that it was that's a really great thing, like in a lot of ways. But like you said, eventually there has to be a kind of a separation because you're responsible for your own companies and stuff. So
Miami Cigar made it confusing because everybody knew La Aurora. They knew us, like we were the face, and they knew La Aurora. And then you'd be like, but then who's Miami Cigar? I'm like, well, we're Miami Cigar. Like, oh, you're not La Aurora? Like, yeah, well, we sell La Aurora, but you're Miami Cigar. I'm like, yeah, Miami Cigar distributes for La Aurora.
Right.
What cigars does Miami Cigar have? Like, oh, Tatiana's, Nestor Miranda. Like, those are part of La Aurora? No, those are not part of La Aurora.
No, it's part of Miami.
Right? So it's confusing because no one really, the Miami Cigar name, we never really promoted it, right? Like it was just the company that owned Tatiana's and Nestor's, but it was to answer to your point, La Aurora and us were all seen as one.
Yeah. All right. Well, Jason, I'll let you get on, but thanks to our audience for staying up late with us as always. Thank you so much, Jason, for sitting down with a great conversation. I can't wait to have you back. Like I said, we missed so many great things that I wanted to get to, but we still had a fantastic conversation, fantastic time. Really enjoyed the cigar, really enjoyed the beverage. Thank you so much for allowing me to share that with you tonight. And again, thanks to our audience. You can always check us out on Facebook Live every Sunday night, live 9:30 Central PM. If you guys are listening to us or catching us up on YouTube, we have our YouTube channel, ELOsoFumar. Hit the subscribe button. And don't forget, if you're listening to us on podcasts, wherever you listen to podcasts, whether that be on Apple Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, Google Play, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Don't forget to download, subscribe, and review. And tonight's audio broadcast is always courtesy of Gran Habana Cigars. Honest, compassionate, great cigars. Be sure you download, subscribe, and review today. If you already are a subscriber, do me a favor, hit unsubscribe, but don't forget to hit resubscribe. That actually really helps my numbers. And don't forget to leave some feedback. For the one person who gave me a 1-star review, thank you for the feedback, but next time actually tell me why I suck. That'll help me get better. That's all I ask. If you don't like me, that's totally cool. Just tell me why I'm terrible, or otherwise I'll always be terrible in your eyes. So all joking aside, Jason, it was such a pleasure to have you on once again. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Barry Duplessis, live from the Alec Bradley Lone Star studio of Azle, Texas. This was our 293rd take. He's Jason Wood, and guess what, everybody? We'll see you next time.
Take care, everybody.